This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ask Boris. Mayor of London Boris Johnson takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is Ask Boris on LBC.
Good morning, folks. It's 9 o'clock on Tuesday, the 2nd of September. This is Boris Johnson bringing you a brand new series of Ask Boris on LBC. I'm here for the next 45 minutes with my trusty helpmeet, Mr. Nick Ferrari, taking your calls. This is your chance to put any question you like to me, and I will do my best to answer. The numbers for you to get your questions on the air are 0345 6060 973 or email boris@lbc.co.uk. You can also watch Ask Boris in high definition on the website. But first of all, let's go to our caller, Douglas in Stanmore.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning,
now
Douglas.
you are going to stand as an MP in Oxbridge, which is a neighbouring area to us in Stanmore, the other side of Heathrow.
So,
You've been on about you wanted to have Boris Island, which is completely pie in the sky and a non-starter. Are you now going to be for or against the expansion at Heathrow? Because just let me tell you this. Majority of businesses and the residents in the area are for it. And if it's going to happen, let's not wait until 2016 or 2026. Let's make a decision in the next Parliament and let's get it built. Let's be a first world country, not a third world country. Don't sit on the fence with your head in the clouds. Put your feet on the ground and be a man.
Well, Douglas, what I'd like to hear is other politicians actually come forward with some of the vision and the clarity that we've come forward with our proposals for solving the airport problem. And as everybody knows, it's been rejected by the Airports Commission under Howard Davis this morning. I think that is, in my view, a very temporary setback, because even though you support very strongly expansion of Heathrow, Douglas, I was elected twice on a very clear manifesto to oppose it. So was virtually every other politician in London. So indeed was the government, and there are very good reasons. The reasons, Douglas, are that even though you may be in favour of the extra business that would come with a third runway, a fourth runway, as there would inevitably be, there would be huge noise pollution problems for hundreds of thousands of people across the city. There would be massive congestion, massive environmental damage in West London, and it is not the answer. It is not the long-term solution. There's no other great city in the world which asks its citizens to endure hundreds of thousands of planes flying over the main conurbation to get to the hub airport. And nobody else would be doing this now, to be thinking of expanding Heathrow in this way. So, Douglas, I think what people need to do is man up, to use your own language, and come out with what they are proposing as the solution. I think that the idea of the estuary is right. I think if you look at the future development of London, that is where it is going to go. There is abundant brownfield sites there to develop tens of thousands of homes. We're desperately short of housing. What you need is the transport infrastructure to go with it. And the estuary provides that vision. With the best will in the world, expanding Heathrow, Douglas, is going to compound a planning error of the 1950s and 1960s. It's going to make life worse for London. It's going to make things pretty well intolerable for people in parts of the city that don't even know they're going to be under the new flight paths.
Let's get Douglas's response. Douglas?
Go on.
Surely the planning error has been governments year after year for not realising that Heathrow is and will always be the airport for London and for the United Kingdom. You say about the effect it will have on the environment and everything else, but there again, surely you are looking through rose-coloured spectacles, because if you think that you can build an airport in the estuary, put all the infrastructure there and not change everything around and make it take at least 50 years, because you guys have got no idea how to go through planning, how to get things done. Heathrow has got all the infrastructure here. We've got the M25, we've got the M3, we've got the M4.
Talking of the M25, by the way, talking of the M25, in order to develop Heathrow in the way that they're proposing, Douglas, you'd have to build over the M25. You have to build through it. You'd have to do a huge amount of work. You talk about it taking 50 years. Actually, I was involved in the Olympics, where this country showed the incredible engineering proficiency that we have. We were able to deliver that on time and on budget. I've absolutely no doubt at all that what this lacks is not planning ability. What this lacks, Douglas, is political will. What's happened this morning is basically that Sir Howard has decided that he's simply not finding enough support in Whitehall for an idea that is as adventurous and as risky, as he puts it, as the estuary solution. That's basically what's going on.
Would you agree, Mr. Mayor, the idea of the estuary airport is now dead?
No, not at all, because, no more than, say, the Channel Tunnel was dead 100 years ago when it was first rejected.
How much money has City Hall spent on this so far?
I can't give you the exact figure, but it's in the low millions.
You've spent millions of pounds pursuing something
absolutely,
that has been rejected as being unviable
because it's
by Sir Howard Davies.
Absolutely, because I believe it's in the long-term interests of this city.
Where do you get the authority to decide to put an airport into Kent?
It is a long-term interest of this city to look at the spatial development of London and to deal...
What gives you the power to decide to visit an airport in Kent?
I have all sorts of statutory responsibilities
to
the people of London and to the London economy to deliver
housing,
to deliver housing solutions and to come up with a long-term viable transport policy. I'm the chairman of Transport for London, I'd be neglecting my duties if I didn't.
And you can just decide to visit an airport upon the people of Kent?
No, unfortunately, I can't decide that, as everybody can see. But I can advocate.
Have you asked what the people of Kent think?
I can't advocate. I can't decide. Well, actually, what is very interesting is that stealthily and behind their hands, many Kent councillors have actually come to me and said that they support the idea. This is, of course, not the official position of Kent.
How many councillors have come to say they support the idea?
Many Kent councillors have said that they think that they can see the huge economic benefits. Don't forget, they would get the business rate. There would be a massive increase in jobs and employment. You'd suddenly have a real boost to that part of the world that has been very much run down since we abandoned our dominance in maritime traffic.
You've had a taste there from Douglas, who is close to Uxbridge in Stanmore. You have a taste of how many people in that area feel. You're seeking the nomination as a Conservative candidate in that constituency. How are you going to balance these two?
As you look at, I think that what you've got to do in life is stick with what you think is right and make the case for it. And that's what I will continue to do. And what I find so disappointing... I'm impatient, really, to hear from others about what they think should happen.
What about the people of Uxbridge? I would imagine many of them are going to want to expand. Their livelihood depend on it. You're seeking to take away their livelihood.
Let's not get too previous here, Nick. I have not yet been adopted as the prospective parliamentary candidate, so I don't want to jinx all that by getting into a lengthy hypothetical discussion about how I would address that. But what I can tell you in general, people should know, is I believe in arguing my case. When I have to do something difficult in London, when we have to make changes to the Congestion Charge, when we have to make changes to improve air quality, when we have to have age limits for taxis, or we have to put the fares up, or whatever, I get out there and I make the case, and I will make the case.
We've been out to Uxbridge. We've been finding out some things about Uxbridge because they thought it might help to improve your knowledge. So it's a sort of Uxbridge University challenge.
No, well, I can tell you. I can tell you this. I'm not doing that.
And here we go, Mr. Mayor, for your starter for 10 or whatever
Nick,
it is.
I can tell you, you can stop it now because I am not doing a pointless quiz with you about a constituency that has not even done its selection process. So,
which England football player and captain went to Brunel University, and indeed captain of a London football team as well, I should say.
I'm sorry.
Studied at Brunel University, which of course is in Uxbridge.
Nick, I'm not doing a...
You're not going to play University
Challenge?
I'm not
going to do it, no, because I think it would be completely presumptuous and silly of me to get in... if and when I'm the MP for Uxbridge...
Right, what about a question from someone in Uxbridge?
In the unlikely event of me being
Can we ask
adopted,
you, would you take a question from some... In the unlikely event?
Well, if I get elected, if I get adopted, if I get elected, then let's have this.
So you don't want to play Uxbridge University Challenge. Take a question from Uxbridge instead.
Morning, Boris. My name's John. Just wanted to know what your policies on antisocial behaviour in Uxbridge are. We do have a bit of an issue down here at the moment, and it has been going on for a while. There are policies in place to sort of deter any of this sort of behaviour, but there's not enough police presence to actually put it into practice. So, as somebody who lives in the area and works in the area, I'd just like to know what you do about it.
And that's a call we took earlier from John.
No, I'm grateful, John. And what we are doing generally across London in tackling particularly antisocial behaviour committed by young people is making sure that we have a high police presence on the streets, and there has been an increase in the number of officers in the neighbourhoods across London, and generally crime is coming down as it is coming down in Uxbridge. I will have a look, John, at the antisocial behaviour committed by young people in Uxbridge. Obviously, I hope very much that it will be very close to my personal agenda in the future. But I'll make sure that we give you a
thank you for that question. By the way, to put everyone out of their misery, what is happening there it was Tony Adams, is the former captain of Arsenal England, who attended Brunel University in Uxbridge.
Yeah.
No more university challenge to come. On to other calls. This is Ask Boris. You're running it, of course.
You're welcome to...
You're running it.
As I said, I'm a man of infinite clemency and generosity, as you know, Nick, and I'm always keen to indulge your foibles. And if you want, at some time in the future... this is not... I think it would just be presumptuous.
Can I come down on the campaign trail with you, if you're fortunate enough to secure...
Well, how do I know you're not running against me?
I have not. Hey, what about James Cracknell? Isn't he going to try and get in there
exactly.
as well?
I mean, there's going to be... that's the point. There's going to be a very contested field and full of...
Why don't you go and stand in Clacton?
Excellent candidates.
What about this idea you should go to Clacton and save the Conservative Party?
Well, the first objection to that really is that I'd already whacked in a CV for Uxbridge.
Well, I'm sure you can whack it out and whack it in elsewhere, if you'll pardon the expression.
Even a bit eccentric to...
you are known for your eccentricities. Why not go to Clacton and save the Tory party?
Because I've put in for Uxbridge, and I think first things first, and that's all.
Why not build the airport at Clacton? Maybe that's the answer.
Well, I looked at that actually.
Did you really?
Clacton is a little bit far out. It is a little bit far out.
Right.
Not even Douglas Carswell deserves to have an airport put on top in anyway.
But the people of Kent do.
The solution to our aviation
anyway, we must move on. We've talked enough about airplanes.
Is in our hands.
Yes.
And what I really want to hear from, politicians other than myself is propositions of similar boldness and clarity. And
let's move on. This is Ask Boris. People want to ask you questions.
Tanya in Hampstead.
Hello. Hiya.
Tanya,
how are you? Hello.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. How are you, Tanya?
Hi.
Good morning.
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
So my question is a little bit different. It's actually regarding to security.
Yes. Tube security.
Tube security, exactly.
Yeah.
So on the London transport.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, are there any plans to improve security underground?
Well,
I spoke yesterday a little bit about this, but it was just that there's often a lot of kind of fear going underground that, nobody's really
right.
protect.
Okay, Tanya. Well, look, which is the route that you take? Because generally across the tube, I think there's been something like a 20 or 30% reduction in crime in the last 6 years, and the statistics we have show that crime has been falling, and assaults have certainly been falling quite steeply. And one of the things that we're doing is that we're getting people out from behind the plate glass onto the concourses, onto the station platforms, to be more visible and to provide the kind of reassurance that I think that you're after. So but we'll get back to my question. If there's a route that you're taking the whole time, where you're noticing just a complete absence of bodies, then I think that would be interesting for our people to know.
This is kind of regarding to you. A couple of days ago, I don't know if you're aware, but all over the kind of Twitter sphere and Facebook and social media, there was a lot going on about this possibility of a scare. Yeah,
I saw that. No, and my children texted me about that, saying, and I want to be very clear. We are seeing a lot of this at the moment. Everybody knows that the threat level has been raised from substantial to severe. That does not mean that we have any intelligence of any immediate or concrete threat to London, to the tube, to the trains, to any mode of transport. I want to be very clear about that.
Why are you doing it then?
Tanya.
Well, why is it being done?
And it's being done, really, as I'm sure you'll have discussed with Bernard Hogan-Howe, it's being done basically because of the substantial number of people who are out there in Syria or Iraq. But we think about 500 or 600 British people, about 250 of them have now come back. It's a devil of a job to monitor them all. You'll have heard all the arguments about control orders and so on.
Nick Clegg is a fan of
and so forth.
Are you?
And that's why the level has been raised.
Right.
And just so people don't kind of get unduly alarmed, I should say that, we've been at this level of threat for several years during my mayoralty before. In fact, I think we even went up to critical at one stage. So, I'm not in any way downplaying the risk. People should be alert. They should obviously be vigilant. But this is not, by recent standards, unusual.
What is your view of TPIMs?
TPIMs, look,
Nick Clegg seems married to them. The Prime Minister has his concerns, particularly about the geographical location of suspects.
I'm with the Commissioner, with the Prime Minister, in wanting a system that enables us to basically to ensure that when we've got people who we think could be a threat, and we don't want them to associate with others and to conspire and so on and so forth, that some way of geographically confining them, I think, is a good idea. That was the idea of the control orders. That's what the police are lobbying me for, and I accept those arguments. If they feel that it would make it easier to make these control orders work, then I'm in favour of it.
Let's move on to other questions if we can, Mr. Mayor.
Alex, we go to Alex in Enfield.
Yeah. Hello, Boris.
Sir, morning.
Yes. Just listening to some of those calls, you slid your way out of answering many of those questions fully, but you are sounding a bit more like the normal politicians, which is not a good sign, is it, if you haven't been elected yet?
Well, I think I gave it massively long answers and detailed answers to every question.
Tony Adams' question. Anyway, on we go.
Yeah, but that was
a bit boring as well. You didn't join in the fun that Nick was offering you there. Once you sound like the others, Boris.
All right.
Perhaps I'll come back to University Challenge.
Come on, Alex. Pronounce your question. Spit it out, man. What
I will. I'm going to deliver my question to you. It's following on from what you said, actually, about the terror threat. I'm wondering what you're going to do as a London MP, if you become one, in regards to passport controls. We've had a lot of discussion about this, and I think the Prime Minister came up with some ideas. But we've got this increased terror threat, and we've got potentially people coming back to our city.
I'm in favor. I think if people could go off to the Islamic Republic of Syria and Iraq and Iraq, whatever it's called, and they are going to announce their allegiance to that state, and they're going to engage in jihad or whatever they want to call it, then I think that they've effectively forfeited their right to UK citizenship, and I've got no problem at all with them being stripped of it upon their return, and I think that should be made as simple as possible. The thing I call for, Alex, which nobody seems to have gone for yet, but I think is perfectly sensible, is if you are going to go to that war zone, all you have to do is identify yourself to the authority. Say, I'm going for humanitarian purposes. And exactly. Then when you or whatever, explain what you're going to do. People say, all right, then, you can't stop you. Then when you come back, people will accept that. But if you go and come back without giving any good reason at all, I think people are entitled to be suspicious.
Alex, quick response?
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're entitled to be suspicious. I just wonder what road we're going down, or whether we're going down the road of potential internment, as we saw with Northern Ireland. It looks like we've sort of, especially for London at the moment, we've got ourselves into a situation where, we're caught between the old control orders that were brought in by Labour and the government's current TPIMs. Yeah. We're not quite sure where to go.
What I said to Nick in an earlier, lengthy, detailed, full answer was that I think the control orders are actually the right way forward. You've got to be able to pin people down to a certain location, because that's the key thing, is to stop them mingling and conspiring with people who might mean us harm.
Let's move on, Alex. Thank you.
We go down to thanks. We're going to Lee in Orpington.
Hello, Boris.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. You touched on it briefly regarding the congestion charge and the LEZ.
Yes.
As a small haulier who has major problems with the LEZ, i.e. you've got an Arab sort of Euro 4,
yes,
which obviously costs a lot of money to change the vehicles. Why is it that we're the only European country that bothers with it?
Well, we're not actually.
Germany has got one.
Well, what we've got is a problem of bad air quality, Lee, which we've got to solve one way or another.
Right.
And with the real issue has arisen because of the failure of the diesel Euro standards to reduce the emissions in the way that they were promised to do. And those standards have... So people bought diesel cars on the assumption that they were doing the clean, green thing. And it has turned out to be a sham and a snare. And it's a bit of a disaster, really, because we've now got, I think, to discourage people from using diesel vehicles. I'm in favour of a scrappage scheme. I think we should be supporting people who have a diesel and they're going to find that when they come through to the ultra-low emission zone that they're not going to be compliant. I think we should be helping people out. But this has been, let's be clear, this has been a failure of public policy. This was something
but no, you've never helped it. Well, you've not helped little hauliers there. But so what you're telling there that people like Renault and that they're going to make petrol lorries. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't think they will, because it just won't work.
Well, what we're in favour of is a scheme...
Well, no, you're saying about diesel. Lorries run on diesel. To keep London going, you've got to have lorries in there to do deliveries. I'm sure even at your office,
yes, but you have
deliveries.
Yes,
what are you going to do if we all say, right, for 2 weeks, we won't come into London then? See how you get on.
Well,
what shops are going to have stock? You won't even have stationery. What are you going to do?
Well, what you need is a diesel engine that is compliant.
Yeah, but you have, because you're up to Euro 5 now. Although, sorry, no, 14 plates, now Euro 6. But what I'm saying is, the foreign lorry comes in, it'll go into the LEZ, you can't do nothing about it, he could be Euro 2, because you can't trace the plate, can you? Now, I go to Ireland a lot and drive through Dublin. They have cars, lorries, so they must have a pollution problem. They ain't even up to Euro 3, they've got no LEZ.
Well,
you want to know why they haven't got an LEZ? Because when everyone was struggling, they went, well, everyone's struggling as it is, kick them wild old down and put more expense onto them. But for some reason, you just think, oh no, don't worry about it, they'll just put up with it. Do you know how many small hauliers well, not you, sorry, it weren't you that started it, it was Ken. But do you know how many small hauliers went out of business because of it? You know, people lived in the smog, they're still alive today, so it didn't affect that many people.
Actually, about 5,000 people died in just one episode of the smog in the 1950s, and we are seeing about 4,000 or 5,000 premature deaths a year in London.
But no, everyone's living longer, Boris. That's why we got to work until 70 now. Because when the pensions were first started, it was, well, they'll be dead by 67, so we won't be paying it too much. Well, everyone's living longer, so they all live through that. So how are they living longer? Now, because there's like diesel lorries that kick out probably less than some cars.
Not everybody is robust as you and me, Lee. And the trouble is, there are loads of kids who might be asthmatic, who might have breathing difficulties. Loads of elderly people who do have difficulties, and for whom poor air quality can make a real difference to their lives. And we've got to have a care to them. I mean, I'm sorry that there has been an impact of these measures on small hauliers and on everybody. We do try and mitigate them.
We're tougher than anywhere else in Europe, though, Mr. Mayor.
Well, we're done in both ways here, because people will say that we got worse air quality than anywhere else. Actually,
well, a diesel is a diesel, whether it's belching it out in Berlin or London.
That is not true, but we do have a problem which we have to address, and the way to address it is by helping people, like Lee, as far as we possibly can,
to get. He feels he's been helped at all.
To get the vehicles that they need.
Lee, a quick response, briefly, if you would, because you've had a long time. Just briefly for what you've heard.
Well, it ain't really helping me. It was like when Ken brought it in. Oh, we've talked to the companies. You talk to people like DHL, people like that are massive, that replace their vehicles every 2 years anyway.
All right, we move on. I think the Mayor has made his point. I must feature some emails, if you would allow me, Mr. Mayor. This comes in from Rachel in Eltham. Now that the Deputy Prime Minister has said he wants to see the parents put back with that dying boy, I respect the Mayor and I think he's a good politician. What would he do if he was Prime Minister?
I've got to be clear. This is something that my wife has told me about over just now, so I haven't seen the details, but it seems pretty obvious to me that the parents and the suffering child should be united, and if they've got, frankly, if they've got a plan to help cure their boy's illness, then they should be supported in that.
Was it right that Hampshire Police sought to make him a ward of court and then get an EAW?
Look, I mean, I've probably gone as far as I can go. It sounds potty to me, frankly, but I don't know the details of the case. every parent's instinct will be that the parents should have care of the child.
3 days, they're in a Spanish jail in one city, and the little boy is in his own in a foreign country. He speaks no Spanish, with a policeman outside his door in another Spanish city.
Well, somebody's going to have to do some very, very lengthy explaining about what the hell went on here, because I don't understand it. Someone's going to have to sort it out. But it's as I say, I need to study the details before I came down too heavy on the police in Hampshire or anywhere.
All right, we have other calls. Let's go to the next one.
Ahmed in New Malden.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello.
Mr. Boris, I just want to say, since the Estuary Airport project has been now rejected,
yes,
will you now support the natural expansion of Heathrow and Gatwick Airport, which is essential for the country if we want to compete with the world all over everyone else has even a small country like Holland has a hub, international hub.
They do,
airport.
but that's a very good point, Ahmed. Holland has a hub in Amsterdam that is taking our business and eating our lunch. They have 6 runways at Schiphol. They're about to build a 7th, and we are lagging pathetically behind. And what is really clear about the current conversation is that the whole thing is a gigantic smokescreen for a U-turn on Heathrow, which by the signs of it you would support, but which politicians haven't got the guts to come forward and say they're in favour of. Let's have this thing out in the open.
Using very colourful language. You're sort of talking about not having the guts. You're talking about the kryptonite idea. You're talking about in one myopic stroke, the Airports Commission has set the debate back by half a century. I put some of those comments to Sir Howard Davis, just to remind my listeners, he's the author.
By the way, there was an attack on politicians there rather than on Sir Howard Davis. What I said just now.
The Airports Commission has set the debate back by half a century. Who do you take to be the subject of your anger there?
Well,
the Airports Commission?
Object.
Thank you, I'll carry on. The author of that report, Sir Howard Davis, came on the show, and I reminded him and put to him some of the language you've been using.
Yes, well, I wish I had his speechwriter. Perhaps he'll come free when the mayor leaves office, and I'll be able to use him. I'm not sure that this kind of colourful prose takes us very much further forward. We've been asked to do a careful, analytical job. That's what we've done. I don't think that it would make much sense for me to recommend something that I really don't think would ever be built.
That's the key thing. Howard has. I've got a lot of admiration in some ways for what Howard is saying, because he's being honest here. He basically is ruling this thing out because he's not getting the support in Whitehall to go ahead with. Everybody's saying, "Oh my God, this is on." No,
I thought George Osborne was up for this.
And well,
he's not.
We certainly haven't heard anything. We certainly haven't heard anything publicly.
How let down do you feel by the Chancellor?
Look, I'm a keen supporter of all my friends and colleagues in government, and I think.
But when you looked for support and came there none, how did you feel then?
Well, the government has set up the Davis Commission with a view to seeing whether they can, park it, get a reasoned answer. But actually, what they're getting, what Howard has been getting, is continual shrieks of panic from Whitehall, who've always been wedded to Heathrow. The whole exercise is designed to get a U-turn on Heathrow, to enable a government of either colour to come in and do that. Now, the most interesting thing, yes, well, let's come to that. The most interesting thing that Howard has said is that not only will he recommend a new runway either at Heathrow or at Gatwick, though it's not clear, he's still leaving that up in the air, but he said by 2020 we're going to have to come back and go for a 4th runway. Now, that is absolutely jaw-dropping, because it means that this whole agony, this whole nightmare, this whole uncertainty over West London and indeed huge parts of London is going to continue. And so it'll be complete Groundhog Day in 5 years' time. You'll be sitting here, garlanded with perhaps in some other capacity. You will be having to face this issue, and you will be having to decide.
114 billion pounds.
Well, now that cost.
That is phenomenal.
That cost, by the way, is no way representative. There's no way what the real figure. The real figure is much lower than that. But what we are doing is not only building an airport, we're putting in the transport links, and solving the problem at a rate. Now, people should listen to the point I'm just making, because actually what Howard is making clear is that his solution, this idea of a third runway at Heathrow.
Well, the Gatwick's still in there, with respect, Mr. Mayor.
Is actually only a component of a long-term strategy of intensification of runways at either Heathrow or at Gatwick, both of which will be absolutely bitterly resisted and will be nightmares in planning terms. Why not solve it now and go for the long-term solution?
Right.
That's what we're urging.
We must take a brief pause. Ask Boris will return here on LBC after the news. 9:30, Lisa Aziz.
London Mayor Boris Johnson's told LBC the Airport Commission rejecting his plan for an airport in the Thames estuary is a temporary setback.
I think that the idea of the estuary is right. I think if you look at the future development of London, that is where it is going to go. There is abundant brownfield sites there to develop tens of thousands of homes. We're desperately short of housing. What you need is the transport infrastructure to go with it.
He's also admitted to LBC that millions of pounds have been spent on the now rejected Boris Island proposal. Sir Howard Davies says the Airports Commission will now only consider options for expansion at Heathrow and Gatwick. The Deputy Prime Minister says it isn't right that Asher King and his family are being kept apart. The 5-year-old, who has a brain tumour, is being treated in hospital in Spain, while his parents are in custody awaiting an extradition decision. Nick Clegg says they should be reunited as soon as possible. 4 Labour Party members, including a former council leader, have been suspended following the child abuse scandal in Rotherham. The party also says South Yorkshire Police Commissioner Sean Wright will need the approval of its National Executive Committee if he ever wants to rejoin the party. At 9:15, the FTSE was up 16 at 68.41, and LBC weather. Early mist and fog will soon clear to leave a mainly dry, cloudy day for London and the South East, with some sunny spells. Highs of 21 degrees, mostly dry and bright with light winds for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and the West. A cloudy, damp start for parts of eastern and central England, though, with the odd light shower likely, but some sunshine due later on. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is LBC, leading Britain's conversation with Ask Boris. Mayor of London Boris Johnson takes your calls with Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. This is Ask Boris on LBC.
It is indeed, and back to your calls in just a moment, but it's Nick Ferrari here, and I'm just going to steal a little bit of time because I'm reminded when we met last month, Mr. Mayor, the very next day, despite the fact that I've been grilling you for 4 to 5 years as to whether you ever sought election as an MP, the very next day you decided that you would possibly be seeking election in Uxbridge.
Yes, I seem to remember that followed a very lengthy dinner with you.
Yeah. It was quite a lengthy dinner. Did I in any way colour your decision? I hope I didn't. People of Uxbridge have suffered enough. But I take you back, I've been asking you this question for 4 years ago.
I'm going to say categorically that the answer to that is no, I don't want to do that. I want to discharge my mandate and my duties.
You were speaking, I think, from your bathroom then. Then you threw in some colourful excuses. When you cease to be mayor, what are you going to do?
I'm going to. Well, I've told you before. You always get the world exclusive. I told you before I was going to take up romantic novels under the pseudonym Rosie M. Banks.
Yes,
and try and survive by producing airport bonkbusters with glossy embossed covers with orchids and that sort of thing and stamens.
That won't keep you going.
No, probably not. But there you go.
So you're not going to become an MP as well, as David Cameron was talking about yesterday.
Well, it's very kind of the Prime Minister to say what he said, and obviously I want to be as supportive as I can, but I've got a very big job to do, and that's what I'm going to do.
It wasn't just me, the listeners tried as well.
Good morning, Boris.
Good morning, Rosemary.
My question to you was, do you think you would make a good Prime Minister?
Rosemary, I'm thrilled. I'm going to swerve. I'm afraid I'm going to swerve.
And even I've tried that question. So you don't want to be Prime Minister?
Well, I can't, in the immortal words of Michael Heseltine, I really, really can't foresee the. I'd have to go back into Parliament. I'd get a seat. I'd have to, go around.
So you'll be You'll be the next blonde bombshell from the Conservative Party who's never been Prime Minister.
You're the next blonde bombshell, Nick.
Now,
are we live now? Sorry, forgive me.
So after the last 4.5 years, you've led me a tissue of deception, lies, and conceit.
Well, what I've said.
What are you planning for tomorrow?
What I've said is that what I've said and what I'm sticking to is I will fulfil my mandate. mandate, and that is what I will do. And
I blame that bottle of red.
And I said I would lead Londoners out of recession. I think if you look at the record of what's been happening in
But
London
what changed
over the
your mind,
last
Mr. Mayor?
6 years.
What changed your mind?
I think it is terrific, and I think it's what I'm saying. I think the economic climate did change. We've now got fewer NEETs, people not in employment educational training, than I think any time in the last 25 years. We've got record highs in employment. We've had massive record falls in crime. I've said I wouldn't fight a second term. I'm still, absolutely firing on all cylinders at City Hall. Everything is going. I think people would say they look at the Olympic Park, look at the things that are happening there, the regeneration that's happening in East London, the legacy we're getting from the Olympics, the pushing forward of all the transport projects that we've got, the extension of the Northern Line, the extension of the Bakerloo Line, all those things that are now happening. I think they would say that there is massive amount of energy coming from government in London. But I've got to face my own mortality as mayor. I'm going to have to give way in the end in 2016. I've got to think about my successor. I've got to think about what happens thereafter. We've got to make but I was also got to think what I do. And if I were lucky enough to be elected in or selected in a place like Oxbridge, then I could obviously continue to be useful to Londoners, and so that was something that seemed quite attractive to me.
Let's go to other calls, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, can we go to Jay in Harlesden?
Hi, good morning, Mr. Johnson.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, my question to you is, you've said that you're the chair of TfL, or Infrastructure for Transport for
That's
London.
Right, yes.
So my question to you will be, wouldn't it make sense that TfL as a contractor to London buses standardise pay to London bus drivers as well as their terms and conditions?
Jay, this is something that has come up from time to time, and I have to say that we don't think that would be the best way forward. We think that I think we've got a great bus service, and I think London bus drivers generally are doing a fantastic job. And speaking as a cyclist, I feel that London, and I hope this is a view that will be shared by at least some cyclists, I feel London bus drivers are amongst the most sensitive that there are, the drivers that there are on the road. I think the system works well.
Why
Jay,
they earn the same money then?
I'm not keen to move back to a wholly kind of nationalised system.
Because if you drive a bus well in Sidcup and you drive a bus well in Stanmore, why shouldn't you get the same money?
Because we've got a system that works, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Jay, do you think it works?
No, because what we've seen in the industry is since privatisation, wages are actually going backwards, where cost of living and cost of life is going up, but yet wages are going backwards to a bus driver, that is, not necessarily to the contract or the contract cost. So what we're seeing is when contracts are given out, bus drivers are actually given less money.
Are you a bus driver, Jay?
I am indeed. I have done for 23 years.
God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I will look. Which route are you on? Where are you? You're in Harlesden, are you?
Yeah, so I drive quite a few central London routes, as well as some suburban routes. But what we would like to see, Mr. Johnson, is, because what we're seeing is a lot of these private companies, which, as you said, are working quite well, and the system's sort of improving. A lot of these private companies are actually based outside of the UK.
They are, yeah.
A lot of them are also sort of funded by other European governments. And what I can't quite understand is, why can't we subsidise our own bus service and have our own bus companies?
We do. Well, hang on, let's be clear. We do massively subsidise our bus service. I mean, the bus service is the most heavily subsidised of all the transport modes in London by miles. So the taxpayer is putting more into buses than into the Tube or into the DLR or in the Emirates.
So would it be right that a London bus driver can claim benefits because he's so underpaid?
Is that true? Bus drivers are claiming benefits?
Well, I think
bus drivers are having to claim benefits.
Well, I think I'd need Jay.
Right,
I think
Jay, hold on. Let's get the mayor in.
Jay, what we need there is we need some chat. Obviously you know a lot about it, and your colleagues are.
But the central point.
What we would need to find out is some chat about it. The central point is,
why can't a bus driver in Harlesden make what a bus driver in Holland Park makes? I don't understand.
Because it's a market, and
bus drivers.
That's the system that we operate in.
So the poor bus drivers in Harlesden don't make as well. So they'll all go and work in Holland Park, where the Ferrari buses pay more.
No, I didn't know you ran.
No, but I don't know the bus service.
Oh, right. Okay.
I got you.
But the point I want to make to Jay is that we don't want to. Yeah, I get that. We don't want to nationalise the bus services again. We think actually that it's produced a great deal of diversity. Well, what the interesting point Jay makes is that London is unlike any other European capital, or certainly unlike France, in that we do have continental companies plying for trade on our streets. And can you imagine the French allowing that to happen? Can you imagine the French allowing TfL to run a service in Paris? We are the good Europeans, folks.
OK. On the subject of public transport, you're in your office at London City Hall and you have to get the tube from London Bridge to Uxbridge. You've forgotten your Oyster card. It's in your suit that's gone to the dry cleaners. How much will it cost you?
I'm referring all answers on tube prices.
This is about tube fares.
The average
London Bridge, you're close to City Hall, to Uxbridge. When you've forgotten your Oyster card, what will the cash fare be?
I'm going to guess that a cash fare is going to be £4.50.
No, it's not.
What is it?
Higher.
Well, it's amazing we can do it. I would say £5.50.
£5.70 is what it's
I'm
going to
amazed
cost
we can
each
do it.
time.
I'm amazed we can do it that cheaply.
Right.
This is a system that we're investing massively in.
All right.
By the way, can I say that by far your best bet is to use your Oyster card, folks. In which case, your fare to Uxbridge is only going to be £5,
and off peak, it's only going to be £3.
So use your Oyster card.
Well done.
And it will only be £5. Can I just pass over your crib sheet, would you?
Yeah, you can have that. I'm going to ask you to do something else.
We've banned
we've got a question. We recorded this earlier from Fiona in Uxbridge. Fiona in Uxbridge. This is a recorded question, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, Boris. My name's Fiona. My question to you is, what plans do you have in place to limit the disruption when HS2 gets built through the borough?
I've been doing.
This is a recorded question.
I will continue to do what I've already been doing, and I think the business case for HS2 needs to be much more clearly made out. I am anxious about the disruption that there will be, not just in around the Euston area, where we're going to have to see some serious improvements to the plans, but particularly in West London. I campaigned for, and we got the tunnellisation of the project at Ruislip. There are better, further and better protections that I want to see for West London, and I've made that clear in all my letters to the Secretary of State.
Are you aware that Uber has been prevented from operating in Germany, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I am. I saw that.
In Frankfurt issuing an injunction. What might that mean for London?
I saw that.
Mr.
Well, I've got to be very careful what I say, because there are legal processes now going ahead. I think the LTDA is taking an action before the High Court, and that was something that we wanted to do ourselves. Well, we were told that you couldn't have two actions at the same time in the same cause, as it were. I am very keen to see what the High Court produces. As you know, I think there's been something a little bit bumptious about the way Uber have approached our market. I want to see whether the High Court will give some support to the idea that the taximeter, that the mobile phone that they're using in their cabs is indeed a taximeter. The problem we had was that our initial advice from council was that it wasn't a taximeter, and therefore we couldn't refuse Uber a licence. We were legally prevented from refusing Uber a licence in this country. That is now being tested before the courts, and I'm afraid all I can do is wait and see how that develops.
All right, we've almost come to the end of our time. Now, you've not taken part in Uxbridge University Challenge, which I've respected, but you do say that you regularly indulge my foibles. Mr. Mayor, are you aware, and
yes.
You're not involved in this in any way, and I'm not going to nominate you.
No.
But Nicky Clark and Darren Goff have nominated me for this wretched ice bucket challenge. I'm not going to nominate you. Will you throw the water over my head now? If we go outside, there's a paddling pool standing by. Would you throw a bucket
paddling
of water?
Pool?
And the money, and I tell you what, the money goes to Cancer and Motor Neuro, and I will make a donation. I once gave money to your reading fund.
You did.
Is that still going, the reading
absolutely.
fund? Right, and I'll make a donation to the reading if you will throw a bucket of water over my head now.
Get London Reading.
Yes?
Well, hang on. Well, look...
There's no hang on. Just throw the water over my head. You're not going to be nominated.
Right,
we go.
So that's what you say no to an offer like that?
Because I'm going to make...
Where is it? Is it a dumper truck full of water? What is it?
No, I wish it is. Come with me, Mr.
Is it but you're obsessed by this. What you want is... you want it to be squirted with a water can.
No. Is that still going to happen?
That's what you're...
Give the mayor a mic. I don't quite know if you can come... Are we still doing that water cannon challenge?
If and when it gets
are we still doing the water cannon?
If and when it gets a licence from the Home Office.
Oh, right. Well, we look forward to that. So that hopefully will be in a few months' time.
Yeah.
Right, so this will get us money for cancer. It's just out here.
Are we all right?
Fantastic. Okay. Wonderful.
Do I need these headphones?
Come through here now. I don't know whether you could watch this on lbc.co.uk, but we're making our way.
Come on.
Fantastic. Right, here we go. I hand all this. If you do that. This is for money. I sit here.
Come on.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of water. Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
This is thanks to Nicky Clark and Darren Gough. I nominate my two sons.
I'm going to use this bucket here.
Go ahead. Oh my goodness. I nominate my two sons, Nico and Seb, and I also nominate Julian Assange. And there's money going to the Mayor's Fund. What's the Mayor's Fund? The reading.
The Mayor's Reading Fund.
Mayor's Reading Fund. Here we go.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
By the way, do you want both buckets?
I want as much as you want to give me.
Are you ready? I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
There you go.
You're listening to Ask Boris here on LBC. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
I think there might be a plot to put this on me, so I'm just going to empty this on you for the benefit. Come on, Nick. Well done.
It's getting worse.
Well done.
That's the end of this week's Ask Boris. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much indeed.
Well done, Mr. Ferrari. Well done.
Money to the Mayor's Fund. This is LBC.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton. Wake up to over 25 hotels across the UK and Europe.
Hurry, the Confused.com £1 million mega draw closes 30th of September. Yes, one very lucky person's going to win a life-changing £1 million just for buying their car, home, life or travel insurance through Confused.com and entering the £1 million mega draw. So if you're looking for insurance and want to win £1 million, I'd pay Confused.com a visit. Toot sweet. Best of British.
Confused.com. Great Britain only. Excludes Northern Ireland. Over 18s. Terms and conditions apply.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, and eyes and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
You already get your eyes and teeth checked. Why leave out your ears? They're just as important. So if you've noticed a change in your hearing recently, come and test it for free at the Great Big Hearing Check from Boots. One free hearing check per year, over 18s only.
Coming this winter, Disney Pixar